Hi, I'm Ariel, and welcome back to School of Print and Design. In this episode, we're diving into one of the most popular and misunderstood print products out there, brochures. If you've ever opened up InDesign, stared at a bunch of panels and thought, wait, which side is the front? You're not alone. Today, I'm going to walk you through how to design a brochure that looks great, folds correctly, and prints beautifully without all the guesswork. We'll cover what a brochure is, how to choose the right brochure format and print materials, and how to set everything up in InDesign, from a simple tri-fold to a more complex roll fold. Now let's get started. Before we get into how to make a brochure, let's get on the same page. For this episode, when we say brochure, we mean one thing: a single sheet of paper that's folded into multiple panels, not a booklet with multiple pages. Brochures include formats like tri-folds, Z-folds, roll folds, gatefolds, and more. At Smartpress, we offer 12 standard brochure formats, covering everything from simple folds to more interactive designs. Here are a few examples. Whether you choose a standard brochure format or a completely custom brochure, the question to ask yourself is, what am I using it for? What's the intent? The context matters. Maybe it's to inform or educate your audience. A single fold, also called a bifold brochure, is great here, or even a classic trifold. Or maybe you're laying out a project timeline where an accordion fold gives you plenty of panels to spread it all out. Whatever your message, just remember, the more complex the fold, the more important planning becomes. Today, we'll be designing these two spring gear brochures for the brand Ariel. The first is a trifold, one of the most basic brochure formats. Then, we'll move on to this more complex 5-panel roll fold. Now, once you've chosen your format, the next step is selecting your brochure printing and finishing options. Your choices here play a key role in the functionality of your brochure. Here are a few key things to keep in mind when making your printing choices. First, the thinner your paper stock, the better your brochure will fold. But beware, go too thin and your brochure might not hold up with lots of handling, but go too thick and it may not lay flat. As a brochure printer ourselves, we recommend 100-pound cover as the sweet spot, unless you have more than 5 panels. For both of the brochures we're designing today, we've chosen coated matte white 100-pound cover as our paper stock. If you want a deeper dive into paper and finishes, check out our other School of Print Design videos. The links are in the description below. The second thing to consider is a coating or laminate. Adding a matte, soft touch, or gloss coating protects your brochure, especially along the folds, which is super helpful if it's being mailed or handled a lot. We added a flat matte UV coating to our Outerland brochures for extra protection. And one quick tip, gloss coatings are great protection, but they also show fingerprints more easily. So select a coating based on how your piece will be used. Once you've locked in your specs, it's time to set up your project in Adobe InDesign. I'm going to walk you through how to design a brochure in InDesign, starting with the simple tri-fold. Then we'll move on to the more complex 5-panel roll fold. No matter the format, the most important rule is always start with the folds. I'll show you what I mean. Before you do anything else, grab a piece of paper. Any piece of paper will do, any size. Conveniently, our first brochure is 11 by 8.5, just like the sheet of copy paper. Now, fold it into a tri-fold. And number the panels in the order your content will be viewed. You might think this is old school or too analog, but trust me, having a physical mock-up to reference as you create each panel is invaluable. This little step could save you lots of headaches later. Now, we can jump into InDesign and set up our project. If you're using a Smartpress brochure template, and I highly recommend you do, this part is already done for you. First, create a new document. Set your width and height to the unfolded size of your brochure. In our case, that's 11 by 8.5. Ensure you're using inches. And even though we will have 2 pages in our project, one for the brochure's exterior and one for the interior, let's start with one page to make the second page easier to set up later on. Next, deselect facing pages since our brochure doesn't have page spreads like a booklet would. Then set the columns to 3, one column for each of our tri-fold brochure panels. Next, jump ahead to margins. Margins define a safe area for artwork around the edges of our entire brochure. I'd recommend at least a 1/4 inch, but never go smaller than an 1/8 inch. A reasonable cutting tolerance is about 1/16 of an inch, and you don't want any critical content too close to the trim line. Now go back to our column gutter setting. Column gutters are the space between each of your brochure panels. The folds between each of our panels will split the gutters, leaving half the gutter in each panel. For this reason, I always set the gutters to double the margin. That will create a uniform, safe area around each panel after folding. And since our margins are a 1/4 inch, that makes our gutters a 1/2 inch. Finally, add at least an 1/8 inch of bleed and keep the slug at 0 since we won't be including that in this tutorial. Then click Create. Okay, here's our new brochure. The red line around the outside is our bleed that gets cut off at our page edges, the safe area and margin line inside of that, and then the 3 panel columns separated by the gutters. Next, let's define the panels. Start by creating another layer that will hold any printing and finishing details. We'll call it Document Setup. Name the other layer Artwork and lock it. We'll put our design on that layer later. Now let's select Document Setup layer again. We'll add our fold lines here. But first, we have to calculate our panel widths. Looking at our document, this should be very straightforward. We already have 3 equal columns, and we should just be able to place a fold line between each of them to define the panels, right? Well, that's exactly what most beginners do. If only it were that easy. Let's re-examine our paper mock-up and see how it relates to our InDesign document. Now, we only have our exterior page created right now, so this is panel 3, 6, and 1. Look at how the last panel of our mock-up folds inside the front and back panels 1 and 6. To have this fold work properly, panel 3 has to be smaller than the 2 cover panels. In fact, with all brochures, every panel that folds inside another panel needs to be a 1/16 of an inch smaller than the previous one. This means that the cover panels will be the biggest panels, and the covers need to be the same width so the brochure looks uniform when it's closed. Now that you understand how it should work, I'll show you how to calculate the correct panel widths. Let's start with our front and back covers. All the other panels will be based on these. First, we need to take the total amount we'll be reducing our folding panel widths by and add it to our total unfolded brochure width. In the tri-fold, panel 3 is the only one that is being reduced by a 1/16 of an inch. So we'll add that 1/16 to our 11-inch total width. 11 plus 1/16 equals 11.0625. Next, we'll divide that by how many panels we have. So 11.0625 divided by 3 equals 3.6875 inches. That's our front and back panel width. With this, we can now create our front and back panels, panel 1 and 6. First, turn on the InDesign control panel so we can precisely set our widths and positions. Next, select the rectangle frame tool and click on your page. Enter 3.6875 for the width and 8.5 inches for the height. In the control panel, set the reference point to the upper right corner and enter 11 for X and 0 for Y. Look, our first panel is all set. Since our front and back covers are the same widths, let's duplicate the panel 1 frame and move it to the panel 6 position. Pro tip, most of the inputs in InDesign can perform calculations. So rather than dragging this frame around, let's use exact math to keep our panel widths and positions perfect. Copy panel 1 frame and paste in place, Shift Option Command V, switch the reference point to the upper left and enter a minus in front of the width and hit enter. This will mirror the frame from its upper left corner. Now we have both our front and back panels set at 3.6875 inches. Let's repeat this to create panel 3. Select the panel 6 frame, paste in place, type a minus in front of 3.6875 and hit enter. But remember that we need to remove a 1/16 of an inch on this panel so it can fold inside. So change the reference point to the upper right. Then in the width, type minus 1/16 or 0.0625 after the 3.6875 and hit enter. See how that changed the frame's width by 3.65 and that it made it fit perfectly on our page? Awesome! If it didn't fit perfectly, we'd have to check our math before moving on. Now we'll adjust our columns. Notice that our gutters are off-center from where our fold lines should be. Let's fix that. First, go to View, then Grids and Guides. Confirm that Snap to Guides is checked and uncheck Lock Column Guides. This will let us move our column gutters. Drag a new guide onto the page, then select our Panel 1 frame and set the reference point to the upper left so the Control Panel X value shows the exact position of where Panel 1 and Panel 6 meet. That's where our fold line will be. Copy that X value, then select the guide we created and paste that value into the guide's X position, and type a minus a quarter inch, which is half of our gutter width. Hit Enter and see how our guide moved into place exactly a quarter inch to the left of our fold position. Repeat this to create another guide between Panel 3 and Panel 6. Next, zoom in. Then click and hold on the left column guide of our column gutter that's between Panel 1 and 6. Drag the column gutter so that it snaps to our guide. And repeat that for the column gutter between 3 and 6, and then delete the guides. With our panel width set and our columns adjusted, let's make our fold lines. Select the line tool and draw a small vertical line for our first fold. Increase the stroke weight to 2 points and set the stroke type to dashed. Then we'll change the stroke color. Now your printer might have special spot colors for you to indicate specific operations in your designs like folds, foil, die cutting, and more. And at Smartpress, we use 100% magenta spot color called fold_SP to specify folded. Now let's set that up. Open Window, Color, Swatches. Click New Swatch and double click on the swatch that it creates. Type fold_SP into swatch name. Change color type to spot. Color mode CMYK. Zero out the color values except for magenta. Set that to 100% and click OK. Set the fold lines reference point to the top center and increase the length to 8.5. Then set the Y position to 0. Select the Panel 6 frame, change the reference point to the upper left, and copy the X position value. Next, select the fold line again, change the reference point to top center, and paste the value into the X position. Repeat this for the other fold line. This completes page 1, our brochure's exterior. Let's duplicate it for the interior page. Open Window, Pages. Right-click on our exterior page thumbnail and select Duplicate Spread. Now we've got a new interior page, including the duplicated content from our first page. That will save us some time. But we're not done yet. If you flip open our paper mock-up to the interior, you'll see the panels are 2, 4, and 5. And if we look behind Panel 5, you can see that this is also Panel 3. So the smaller inner folding panel is on the right now, and the front cover panel is on the left. That means our panel order has reversed. So we need to reverse our columns, frames, and fold lines. Luckily, that's not too difficult. Select all the frames and fold lines on your interior page and choose Object, Group, or Command G. Then select Object, Transform, Flip Horizontal. That takes care of reversing everything except the column guides. Those need to be manually adjusted, just like we did on the exterior page. First, let's ungroup our frames and fold lines. Then, select the fold line between Panel 5 and 4 and copy its X value. Drag in a new guide and paste the X value minus a quarter inch and hit Enter. Next, snap the column guides to the correct position and delete the guide. Then do the same for the other column guides. Once everything is adjusted, you can delete all the frames from both the exterior and interior pages. And now we're ready for design. If this episode about how to design a brochure in InDesign is helpful so far, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more print and design tips. We release new episodes regularly, so you can create brilliant print with confidence. All right, let's move on to the next part of our brochure journey, the design phase. In this case, we know what our final design will look like already, but let's pretend we don't. When starting any designs, designers will usually be working from a creative brief, or they'll be provided with copy from a copywriter or a marketing team. Before you do anything else, review the content in detail. For this brochure, we have some Outerland brand assets, a variety of product images, and a doc with product-heavy content. Next, let's move on to sketching a rough concept on paper. Here we can quickly work out how to best fit the content in our design before moving to a more polished digital version. We'll start with the front cover. It needs to be branded and recognizable, so let's start by putting the logo here. The cover should also be visually impactful and draw a reader in. Let's include a large area for the photo here. And we should give it some kind of title or description so people know what it's all about. Next, let's move on to the back cover. The back cover is a critical place to put contact information and a call to action. Make sure to include a destination for those customers who want to learn more about your company or purchase your products. In our case, this will be some text along with a URL and a QR code. We'll reinforce our branding here again too. Also, you should think of the front and back panels as you would think of a cover of a book. It's our wrapper. It's what people see when our brochures close. So treat the front and back panels as a pair rather than independently. Let's make our cover and back panels a different color from the interior. The darker color will create contrast with the inner panels and connect the cover panels visually. If the cover does the job, we'll have gotten our readers to open the brochure. Wonderful. And now that we have their attention, we can share all the details with them. In our case, our content is really product focused. So let's feature some of our best products here. We'll include product images, product names, brands, prices, and description. We'll add a headline and a benefit statement on the first inner panel with an additional CTA to complete our design. Now, we can jump back into the InDesign project we set up before and work from our sketch. First, we're going to gather all of our images and brand assets into a links folder so they will be easy to bring in later. This will help keep our project tidy. Next, let's define the colors we'll be using in our design with some new swatches. First, we'll create an Outerland green brand color, then a forest green color, and finally a sage color. Next, lock the document setup layer and unlock and select our artwork layer. We'll design on this layer. Now create all the background colors. Create a rectangle shape that fits the whole brochure, including the bleed area. So 11 plus an eighth plus an eighth for the width and 8.5 plus an eighth plus an eighth for the height. Align it with the bleed edge. Then make it sage, as this will be the color of our interior panels. Finally, copy it to our interior page. Next, create a rectangle for our cover panels on the exterior page, 3.6875 times 2 plus an eighth for both covers and the right bleed. Then the same height as our other rectangle. And we'll go with the forest green for contrast. Then lock all the rectangles on both pages so we won't accidentally select them while working on the rest of our design. Next, let's lay out our panels, starting with the front cover. This is where our columns and margins really start paying off. First, create a frame for our logo at the top that snaps to the margin and column guides. And then place your logo into it. Select Fit Content Proportionally to quickly fit the logo in the frame. Then let's add a frame for our cover image. Make sure it spans from the fold to the bleed edge. Find an image from our assets. This lifestyle image should work. And place it in the frame and scale it so it's nicely cropped. Next, add the small description between the logo and the image. Type in our text, center it, then set the font and character styles. And lastly, open the text frame options and set auto sizing to height only. That fits the text frame perfectly to the top and bottom of our text so we can center vertically between the logo and image. And finally, complete the cover with some title text at the bottom. Draw the text frame so that it snaps to the bottom margin and column guides. And after specifying our character styles, open the text frame options and set the vertical justification to align bottom. Then we can move to the back cover. Let's bring just our logo mark in here. Then add the CTA text at the bottom, similar to how we made the title on the front. And finally, our QR code. Go to Object, Generate QR Code. Under Type, select Web Hyperlink, and we'll type in our URL here. Then toggle to the Color tab and select our forest green color from the swatches. Click OK. Change the color fill to paper white and move the QR code into place. Now, let's move on to the inner panels, starting with the product panel layout. We'll create panel 3 first, and then we'll duplicate the layout for the other product panels. So start with the image frame. Then let's add our text content beneath it. Create a text frame for the product's brand, then the product name, price, and description. Fill the description with placeholder text for now by selecting the description text frame and choosing type, fill with placeholder text. Now spend a little time and set all our character and paragraph stats. Next, let's go through the text frame options. These settings can help make our type layout easy to adjust on the rest of the product panels. Starting with the product description, edit the inset spacing for top, left, and right to 1/4 inch. Set the bottom to 0, and keep the vertical justification aligned to the top. Then we'll move on to price. Set auto sizing to height only, and add 1/4 inch to the bottom inset spacing. Drag it so the bottom of its text frame snaps to the top of the product description text frame. Now move on to product name. This has all the same settings as price did. After it's all edited, snap the bottom of it to the top of the price. Next is brand. This one is a little funkier. We'll want to hug our text content automatically. First, change its fill color to white, then go to the text frame options and check preview, so we can see how our settings are looking. Now set the insets to a 1/16 for the top and bottom, and an 1/8 inch for the left and right. Also set the vertical justification to align center. Then set auto sizing to height and width, set the minimum width to 1 inch, and check no line breaks. You'll notice how the text frame and the white fill are tight to the brand text. Now that we're happy with the product panel layout, let's duplicate it to the other 2 product panels 4 and 5 on the interior page. You'll have to manually adjust all the widths. Text frames will need to be fit to the column guides in each panel. The image frame will be adjusted to fold lines. And finally, let's bring in all of our product content. Open the doc and copy paste, Shift-Command-V, the text into each text frame. Panel 3 will be the utility pack. Panel 4 will be the Lincoln axe. And panel 5 will be the deerskin gloves. Once the text is finished, let's link our photos. Select the image frame in panel 3 and place in the utility pack photo. This time, select the fill frame proportionally. Adjust the photo scale and cropping if needed, then do the same for the other panels. Last, let's design the first inner panel, panel 2. We'll bring in our logo and logo mark. Here, let's use Shift-Command to scale them proportionally. Next, create a text frame for the headline. Copy and paste the headline from our doc. Set text frame options to auto sizing, height only, and 0 insets. Then bring in the benefit statement text. This frame will also be auto-sized to height, and it will include a top inset of 1/2 inch to keep our spacing uniform. Last up is a CTA. This one will have the same text frame options as the benefit statement. Then highlight only the URL, change the text color to Outerland green. Then let's create a custom underline style. With the URL text still highlighted, go to the character panel options and click on Underline Options. Change the weight to 2 and the offset to 6. Click OK. And finally, we'll top off our design with a watermark to logo mark that will span our 3 interior panels. We'll paste in another logo mark and change the color to forest green. Then set the opacity in the control panel to 5%. Holding Shift-Command, scale the logo mark into place. This is purely aesthetic, but it helps visually connect the interior panels and makes the design a little more interesting. All right, we finished the trifold brochure design. Here's a look at it in print. You can see how the branded front panel grabs attention with the big image and dark green leading you naturally inside. And that's exactly what we want. On the inside, you're greeted with a benefit statement and a call to action. Then you get all the product details on the rest of the panels. On the back cover, We've got a simple QR code and another CTA. Functionally, that last panel is a touch shorter and sits inside the covers nicely. The whole brochure lays really flat, and the coating has kept the folds looking clean, so I think we can be really happy with how this turned out. Now that we've mastered the tri-fold, next up is the 5-panel roll fold version. It has 2 additional panels that we'll use to feature even more products, so let's get started. Once again, we're going to begin with a piece of paper. This time, fold it in half vertically so that it has a wider aspect ratio. Now, fold it into your roll fold. And number the panels in the order your content should be viewed. Now, we'll set up our InDesign project. Again, a Smartpress template is your best friend here, but let's assume you're creating your own file. Create a new document. Most of our settings will stay the same as the tri-fold, but our unfolded width will be 25 inches and the height 7 inches. And now we have 5 columns instead of 3. Click Create. Okay, here's our roll fold document showing 5 panels instead of 3. Now let's set those up next. Our paper mockup shows us that our 2 right panels, 1 and 10, will be our front and back cover panels. Remember how we got our front and back cover panel widths for our tri-fold? Well, we'll use the same method for this roll fold, but it's slightly more complicated. On this brochure, the front and the back covers will still be the widest panels, and they will still be the same width. But starting at panel 3, the panels will get progressively smaller. We'll reduce panel 3 by 1/16 of an inch, then panel 5 by an additional 1/16 of an inch, so 2/16. And finally, panel 7 will get another 1/16 of an inch smaller than panel 5. So 3/16 smaller than the cover panel widths. Ultimately, we'll be reducing all our panel widths by a total of 6/16. Just like with the tri-fold, we'll add that number to our total unfolded width. That's 25 inches plus 6/16, which equals 25.375 inches. Then we divide by our total number of panels, 5. That gives us our front and back panel width of 5.075 inches. Let's set those up first. Create the front panel frame and align it to the upper right of our page, just like the last time. Then duplicate it using Paste in Place and mirror it using the Control panel. That finishes our back panel. Next, we'll add the inner panels. These are the ones we'll be reducing in width. Duplicate panel 10, mirror it, and reduce it by 1/16 of an inch. And that completes panel 3. Do this again to make panel 5, but duplicate panel 3 this time. Now we're starting with a panel that's already 1/16 of an inch smaller than the cover panel's widths. When we reduce it by 1/16 again, our reductions compound and will make our panels progressively smaller. Repeat this for panel 7 by duplicating panel 5. And we're all set. See how the panels fit perfectly on our page? That's how we know we did it right. With all the panel frames created, you can see just how much our equal columns are off from our correct panel widths. The 2 extra panels make this even more apparent. Let's then create our fold lines. Let's adjust our columns just like last time. There. Now we can duplicate the exterior page to create an interior page. Remember that the panel order reverses on the interior page, so group everything on this page and flip it. Then adjust the columns. Delete the frames, and you're ready to design. The design process for the roll fold will be nearly identical to the tri-fold. So I've gone ahead and just brought all the design elements from the tri-fold brochure here. Then I adjusted the height and width of each panel to fit properly in the roll fold column guides. The biggest difference here is that we have 2 additional panels. Let's copy one of our product panel designs into these new panels. Then bring in the content for the extra products. With the new products added, we are ready to print. And here is that design in real life. Do you notice how each panel reveals the next product? That's what makes roll fold so effective and engaging. See how each of the folding panels is just a touch smaller than the previous? That's how the brochure can lay so flat, even with all that folding. And there you have it. You now know how to design a brochure. Before you dive into your next one, remember these 6 essentials. 1. Understand the fold and always use a physical mock-up. 2. Use templates whenever you can. They're a real time saver and can eliminate guesswork with your printer. 3. Choose a brochure format that supports your message and make functional finishing choices. 4. Design with production in mind. Leave space for folds and trimming with column gutters, margins, and bleed. 5. Test your work. Print brochure sections at full size to check readability and catch other potential issues before a full run. And 6. Communicate clearly with your printer. Review your proof carefully and ask questions when you're unsure. When you combine thoughtful design with smart planning, your brochure won't just look good, it'll work hard for your business too. Thanks for watching School of Print Design. If you found this episode helpful, like, subscribe, and share it with your team. And if you're ready to bring your brochure to life, we're here to help every step of the way. I'm Ariel, and I'll see you next time.